Hello and welcome back to episode number 7 of the United Front Football Podcast with myself, Big Meaty, aka Dan, and Breezy, aka whatever his name is.
That's not what that calls me.
Thank you for tuning in once again, whether you're on YouTube watching us or whether you are listening on one of the podcast providers. We do appreciate your custom. We'll start as we always do, Breezy, with some questions from the audience. So if you're not aware, every Monday when we're about to record the pod, we ask for your hot takes and opinions of the football of the weekend, and we'll reiterate your mad opinions to the world and criticize you wherever it is due. So I think what we'll do is I'll go first because I've got one that I know you want to get your teeth into, basically. So we've had Keeney has come in with a great hot take of the EPL, so the English Premier League, should cut down to an 18-team league. The 3 teams coming up now can't compete, and it's making a mockery of the league. If a team up here lost 8-0, we'd be ridiculed. It's worth noting that Keeney is Scottish, so up here he means in that league where some teams play and nobody watches.
Yeah. The thing is, like, there may be an argument to like cutting the league down. It's an argument I don't necessarily agree with, right? But like, sure, I'll be willing to entertain the idea of like maybe cutting the league down from 20 to 18. Sure. Again, don't necessarily agree with it, especially like. This season in particular, I think the 3 promoted teams are particularly poor. Like, I think Burnley, everyone expects them to be doing a lot better than they are. Luton and Sheffield United, though, everyone said they'd be down there pretty much all season, right? And I don't think anyone expected 8-0, but no one expected them to be good. But in recent years, though, like I think you look at teams like Brentford's, like I know Bournemouth went down for a couple of years and came back up, but Bournemouth came up and managed to stay in the league for like 5 years. Like I know Fulham have been a bit yo-yo, but they look a lot more stable now. Like, and Forest as well. Like Forest look a lot more settled in the league. I think the quality actually of promoted teams in recent years has been way better than what it used to be. Especially like makes we have the likes of West Brom and Watford and Norwich coming up and stink up the gaff every single season. But like,
at least we don't get West Brom every year now, or every other year.
Exactly,
they're staying down where they belong.
Yeah, thank God. And honestly, thank God for that. Less Midlands come to better. Sorry, I've gone for the Midlands there for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
I'll get in touch with the lawyers.
Yeah. But Wolves, another great example. Obviously, they're not having a great time this year, but Wolves came up and like were instantly a settled Premier League team again. And I know like there's different circumstances for that, like different infrastructures, different amounts of funding that's available for recruitment and stuff like that. But no, I actually think the level in the Championship, I think, is actually pretty decent. I think it's just so happens that last year 2 teams got promoted that probably weren't necessarily ready for it, or like they probably found out halfway through the season of like, shit, we might go up here. What do we do? So yeah, for the Scotland thing though, I've got to be honest. Like, I love Keeney's a regular. I think in both our streams, right? Like, love Keeney. He's great laugh. But the whole thing about like, oh, if a team up in Scotland lost 8-0, like they'd be ridiculed. They wouldn't. No one would care. Like, I'm sure Celtic or Rangers will batter someone 8-0, and it'll just be like, yeah, Celtic or Rangers. I don't think it's even if someone did lose 8-0, like any team loses 8-0 is worthy of ridicule. I mean, we're going at the promoted teams. Southampton lost 9-0 twice in 2 years. Like, and they were an established Premier League team at that point. So it's not necessarily a promoted team problem. It's just some teams are just absolute garbage. And these freak
the team whose name I can't remember lost 7-0 at Liverpool last year. So
yeah, that is true.
And they've been in the Premier League forever.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, I forgot. I actually forgot about that. That was a thing that happened.
So did I. That was like opening a healed wound. That was like pulling it open myself.
Well, to give you an example that might make you feel better, obviously there was United beat Arsenal 8-2 once. Like, so it can go the other way. But yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a promoted team issue. I think it's just they're freak results that happen from time to time. And I think Southampton probably got lots to answer for because they've made it look a lot more regular. Yeah, because it happened to them twice. So
just blame Southampton. Yeah,
yeah, basically.
As well, like I get the argument. I don't really get the argument for an 18-team league because, like you say, there's a load of teams that have come up and re-established themselves as Premier League. Like recently, Villa, is very recently.
Villa's a great example.
Like have come back up. Brighton have come up. Obviously, they've been in the Premier League for a while now, but like they've established themselves. I just think this year is a particularly, I don't want to say poor selection, but like just it feels like it's the weakest 3 in a long time. There's usually one team or 2 teams where you think, yeah, you know what, they might actually stay up or like their chances of staying up. You saw it with Fulham last year. They actually had a really good season. when they were one of my favorites to go down because I just assumed they were going to do a Fulham and go straight back down. But then they just signed the best keeper in the world, apparently. He's just
Apparently so.
Bernd
Yeah.
Leno, like Arsenal with all their goalkeeping woes, turns out they just sold the best keeper in the Premier League. So, as only Arsenal could do.
Yeah.
But the 18-team league thing is, would you be in danger of almost making it a like a franchise league then? Like if you make an 18-team league, you might, because you'd downscale the amount of teams coming up and going down to like 2, maybe 1, and you're almost getting that like franchise model of football club there, because where the teams who are in there are gonna just kind of motor away from everyone because of all the money. And you see it in Germany, right? Like there's a lack of competitiveness at the bottom and the mid-table because of that. And the one upside to it, like argument for it in Germany, I guess, is you do get 1 or 2 massive teams going down every now and again.
Yeah, that is true.
Which is pretty hilarious. But I don't know if it would work there. I'm sure Premier League managers would love it though, because it'd mean less games. So Jurgen Klopp would be able to kind of lower his heart rate a little bit.
Still find a way to moan about it, honestly. I'm sorry, I would. All right, so next up, we've got Wald McConville. Always comes in with a particularly hot take, it seems. He's coming this week, going at Levi Colwill in particular. He says, if Levi Colwill came through at West Ham or Palace, there would not be half the hype around him that there is. If it is only there because he came through at Chelsea, coincidentally the worst Chelsea team in 20 years. He's all right, probably Chelsea's best defender so far, but not the English Nesta. I've not heard him be referred to as the English Nesta.
I was going to say, who's calling him the English Nesta? Is it Wald? Is he calling him the English Nesta just to kind of like play to this narrative? I think he's really good. I thought he had a great season in the Championship with Huddersfield, where everyone's kind of ears pricked up about him. Got that loan to Brighton last year as well, where he was genuinely one of their better players. Like especially the second half of the season, I thought it was fantastic. And he's come into a Chelsea team that are kind of a bit of a dumpster fire at the minute, but. You know, I think he's been one of their better performers. Like, and it's about time they kept a centre back around that has come through the academy. So like the amount of really good players they just like let go, and especially this year where like it just seemed like their MO was to sell all of their youth products so they could, fit in FFP. I think he's been good. Like you say, I don't think he's been touted as an English Nesta. He's only 20 years old.
He's playing at left back a lot for Chelsea as well, from what I've seen. Like from looks of it, he's been playing like a lot of left back this season. Like he's not really been able to nail down an actual. Because he's only playing as like a left-sided centre back, a left back, and then I think only the other day he played as a centre back for the first time, or maybe second time.
Yeah, and as said, like it's in a pretty dysfunctional Chelsea team at the minute. And obviously, no one's ever come through the West Ham academy and been hyped up and blown up, and had a great career from it. So yeah,
I was going to say the day West Ham sell some of 100 million, Dan, I'll eat my hat. I'll tell you, for a youth academy player, never going to happen. Never. I do find it funny though. He was like, "Oh, if Colwill came through at West Ham and Palace, like there wouldn't be this hype about him." There was hype around him because he was playing at Brighton.
Yeah,
like he surely fit into that sort of bracket of teams, right? So it's kind of disproving your own point there a little bit.
Yeah, I just think that's tough, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyone who is calling the English Nesta, though, please make yourselves known, because I've not seen it. So
yeah. In future, if you're going to throw out like kind of remarks like that, we're going to need to see some proof, a screenshot, even just be asked typing out your own fake website.
Do you know? It might be maybe Walter's a Harry Maguire fan, and because Colwill's been touted as one of the centre backs to take a spot in the England team. Maybe that's sort of under his skin a little bit. So let us know, Wald. Get in touch.
Because it's the whole Maguire thing is it's a media conspiracy. It's not because he's been shite for 18 months. Here's one directed. I was going to say directed directly at you, but that doesn't English very well.
Words.
Words. It's a Monday night. It's been a long day. Breezy is a huge pessimist, getting told how awful West Ham would be at the start of the season. They've been decent against Liverpool and City, pushing for a top 6. Life advice: David Moyes will find a way to prove Breezy wrong. We was actually joking about this before. Like if he hadn't already been at United, he'd probably be getting touted for the United job. With how well he's been doing the last couple of years. But yeah, in your usual kind of pessimism of West Ham, I think it was, to be like, in your defense, I think it was before you'd actually signed anyone, when you were going, oh, this is going to be crap.
This is the thing. Context is key here. And thankfully, we've got an archive of this stuff in podcast format. Where we hadn't signed anyone. The season was starting in a week, and we were getting linked. The only serious links that were there were Harry Maguire Scott McTominay and James Ward-Prowse. Obviously, Ward-Prowse has been great, but it looked like we were getting McTominay over Alvarez, which I wasn't happy about, and it looked like we were getting Maguire over any other centre back, so which obviously wasn't very.
I for one am fuming that you had competent transfer team.
Yeah, I know. But like, to be fair, I don't think I'm naturally pessimist. I think West Ham does. I think you ask any West Ham fan, supporting West Ham will just make you pessimistic because
you've been beaten into submission.
Exactly. Like we are. The main lyric in our song is called "Fortune's Always Hiding." Like the song is literally about being miserable. Our club anthem is about how shit we are. Like so, it's kind of just like it's just kind of ingrained into you from the moment you start supporting the club, and like. But I've one of the things I've always done since Moyes has come back, I've always held my hands up and said when I've got it wrong. When he came back the second time, I didn't want him there, and he got a 6th, 7th, and he's won us a trophy. Like, yeah, last season was crap, and I have my concerns about Moyes moving forward. Like, I think, like we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I think next week's game against Sheffield United is going to be a real test for him, but for different ways, which I'll explain later. But no, he's doing a fantastic job. I thought we'd struggle this year, but then we made some really, really good signings, and we started the season really, really well. So now I'm way more optimistic about what our season could look like. But
yeah, and your new signings have shown up, and you've got. I don't know how. I'll be honest. I've not watched many of the games since he signed, but Kudus to come in as well, who looks like a really exciting signing.
Got 2 goals on Thursday, so he's off the mark.
Shows how much I've been paying attention to European football this week. But I think I wouldn't say you're a pessimist. I'd say you're very much a realist. Like you know,
I think so.
Erring on the side of caution.
Well, going into the City and Liverpool games, I think I said like to you and on stream, I was like, I'm going in with optimism. I still think we'll lose, but like I'm more optimistic than I have been in previous years that we could get something out of the game, be it a draw or nicking a win or something. Like, and I think I've been proven right because I'd reason to be optimistic, but we lost both games. So like it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
I'm like any football fan.
City and Liverpool will beat better teams than West Ham.
Exactly. So I'm not worried about it. But no, I mean, to be fair, and he is right. Moyes will continue to prove me wrong. So I thought Moyes would have a good season last year, and in the league he didn't. So he
did win a European Cup though. So
he did.
Swings and roundabouts.
So I think if I just go into every season being like he's gonna have a stinker, we'll eventually win the league. I think.
Yeah, that's how it works. Low expectations, just accept any gleeful opportunity to celebrate.
That's exactly it. If that's not what being a football fan is about, then I don't know what it is.
I'm learning that. I'm learning that every day as a United fan this year.
One of us. Right. Well, speaking of teams that are in the absolute mud, Red 496 has come in, talking about Chelsea and Mauricio Pochettino. He's coming with a take of, I've never seen a manager less than 5 years removed from a Champions League final look more out of his depth than Pochettino at the moment. Obviously, Poch got to Champions League final with Spurs 5 years ago, according to him, and now seemingly in an absolute mess at Chelsea.
Well, I can only assume he's been watching football for 4 years then. With it, like, there is like mitigating circumstances with the whole Chelsea fiasco, and like far be it from me to be who's been like quite a vocal, not kind of Poch critic, but like I've never fully bought into the hype of Poch. Like when you see Gary Neville going, oh, he'd have been my number one choice at United, and like loads of people going, oh, he's the next elite manager. I'm always like, settle down. He's not actually really done anything. He's won the league with PSG. Yeah. I could probably do that, and for all intents and purposes, we've all seen how shy I am as a manager on Football Manager. And to say like, oh, I've never seen anyone look so far removed. Like what was it? What was his actual phrase? Look
more out of his depth, or a manager less than 5 years removed from a Champions League final look more out of his depth.
Yeah, more out of his depth. Wasn't Rafa Benitez sacked twice 5 years after his Champions League win with Liverpool? Not only did he get sacked with Liverpool, the team that won he won the Champions League with, but he went there into Milan and got sacked there as well. So, I think, like I say, you can probably find loads of examples of it. I assume it is hyperbole because it's not working at Chelsea right now. Like I say, there are mitigating circumstances, and in the most un-me way possible, I'm going to defend Chelsea and Poch a little bit. He's going into an absolute kind of chaotic makeup of a squad with a ton of injuries. Granted, they've got 40 players, so they should be at a handle injury crisis. But still, missing a lot of players that would be first team starters. Doesn't have a striker that's on the own and not him. Like, and it's 5 or 6 games in. From the games I've watched, they've actually been playing pretty well. They just can't find the back of the net. They've got Wolves syndrome, where they play some good football, just can't kick the ball in the goal. It's like United are a bit like that this year as well, actually. Like, not to the same level, but like they just can't score a goal, can't buy a goal at the minute.
Yeah, it's like the ghost of Graham Potter is still there.
Yeah.
flying around the Chelsea trying to go like, XG.
Most missed chances in the Premier League. And it's,
I mean, to give you just jump in to give you an idea of how Chelsea fans might be feeling. We did have a Chelsea fan actually reply to us, Jonathan, just said, "We will go down." There, I said it. He's not confident. Like
another one for expect the worst, accept anything better. But like, yeah, I think they went over it on Match of the Day. It was either Match of the Day or Match of the Day 2. Whereas, like, in terms of like chances created, big chances missed, shots and stuff, they're actually doing fine. And when they were breaking it down, it's like you can tell that the players look like worried that they're going to miss. Raheem Sterling in his City days didn't even think when he was shooting, which you could tell with the amount of shots he missed. But like, he's overthinking stuff. You got Nicholas Jackson, who's making some brilliant runs, like his actual movement and the space he finds and the one-on-ones. We have to kind of give some props to Emi Martinez as well at the weekend, who I thought had a fantastic game.
He was good.
Yeah, he made some really, really big saves. So a little bit unlucky. Like, I think it's one of those things that when it clicks, it will click, and Chelsea will look fine. Like, they'll start getting some of their players back through. Some of their players, like the players who are underperforming, are not quite giving the returning hope. They'll start delivering. It will happen for them. It's just going to take a bit of time. It's 6 games after a catastrophic season, a complete squad overhaul in the last 18 months, and a brand new manager. Like, I do think it's a bit harsh to say like he's looking out of his depth, because I think he's perfectly in his depth, which is like an upper mid-table Premier League manager, and he's got. I mean that like in the nicest possible way, in that like this is his opportunity to take a young squad, because he's shown he can work with and improve young players in the past. Take those, improve them, and prove people like me wrong. Like prove people like Gary Neville right, that say he's one of the big managers who can do things. Because like
I think you've got. So I was going to say, I think you've got to as well look at the. I know you touched on it there, but especially with Chelsea, but even with PSG, like the clubs he's been to since Tottenham have not been the most like ideal position for any manager, really. I've always said any manager that goes to PSG, you can't really judge them on what they do there, because they've won the league, like you say, they should be. That's like the bare minimum is to win the league. So really, all you're getting judged on there is the Champions League. So if you don't do well in the Champions League with PSG, you're deemed a failure. And the club is the way that club's run is just almost as bad as Chelsea is right now, right? So he hasn't really had a club since Tottenham that's sort of given him the tools or is the right environment for him to probably thrive, right? And as well, like you say, it's a young squad, and he's obviously really good at. He's shown that he's really good at working with young players. But as well, like those young players have got to play week in, week out with the pressure, the constant pressure of just like, we've spent £1 billion on you. We've spent £1 billion on you. Do you know? And it's just, that must be, no matter how professional you might be or how ambitious you might be, that must be difficult week in, week out, just having that sort of over your head all the time of like, I don't know, someone like, I'm trying to think of example, someone like Mudryk, right? Like, he didn't ask to cost 80 million. He may not be worth it. He may be a dud that just got bought off the back of some hype. But like, it must be difficult playing week in, week out with that sort of, or collectively a £1 billion price tag over the entire team's head and trying to get results already, when like probably going into the season, expectations probably weren't that big for Chelsea. It was probably just get top 4. Like, that's not like, go and challenge for the title.
I don't even think like top 4. Like, I think a top 6 finish would have, and the Chelsea fans and even the Chelsea ownership would have been, okay, yeah, we're fine. Like, that's fine. It's improvement. We've talked about it before. There's about 8 or 9 teams that are challenging for or wanting to get in the Champions League. Like, there's the usual 6 teams, and then there's 2 or 3 teams that are better than some of those teams. Exactly. So they won't all fit in the top 4. So here it goes. It's a long old season, only 6 games, and like I said, they've been playing well. Just not finishing their chances. It doesn't help when you go down to 10 men as well. Like, was it first half as well? Like.
First or second, I think it was first half. Like, it was a pretty.
It was either first or second.
Yeah,
it would have been one of the 2.
That was a right Michael Owen moment there for me. Right. I was going to say as well on that, like with Chelsea, I watched I called the highlights of the game afterwards, and like my biggest concern if I was a Chelsea fan would be like, you're right. They are playing well and they are creating the chances. But I think the longer the game goes on, the last few times I've watched Chelsea, it feels like the longer the game goes on, you can tell they're just running out of ideas, and that's where sort of panic starts creeping and stuff. But like that's something that will just come once they get a win and they get a few goals, like going in a few games like that will come. But they do look like a team at the moment who are just like, what have we got to do to score? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know how they fix that. I mean, Broja's just come back from injury. He's going to take a little bit of time getting him sharp and ready because obviously ACL injury is a big one to come back from. He could be an answer because he was very promising prior to the injury. Like if he doesn't want to stick with Jackson for the foreseeable, but
it'd be nice to have another option, wouldn't it? Really for him. To be honest.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of Chelsea fans hang their hopes on Kunku coming back, and like whilst he's shown he's a very good player at Leipzig, as we've seen with many signings that have come to the Premier League, not just playing for Chelsea, like it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to come and tear up in the Premier League. Like Werner and Havertz came with a great reputation from the Bundesliga. You know what I mean? Like look what happened there. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, so like I think I understand the excitement about Nkunku coming back. I just don't know if he's necessarily like the guaranteed answer. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting old season for them, and I think like I said, I think the longer it goes, the less pressure is on him, and I don't think that the manager's going to get rid of Poch. I think like he's the idea, he's the guy that he wants in charge, so he's going to get the time to actually work with it. It'll be interesting to have a proper look back at the end of the season on how Chelsea's season's gone, because if they do start clicking, they've got some really exciting players there that could play some really good football. As much as I hate it.
You got to think as well. So just to finish on, like you got to think, Emery came into Villa at like what November time last year, and he took them from like 17th up to 7th. So even though you've had a bad start, if they start putting a run together either next month or from November onwards, they could well rock up the table and get into those top 6 places still. Like it's not out of the question.
Yeah, it's not like they're getting battered. They're just just not finishing their chances. Like like you say, winning breeds confidence. When the players start scoring goals, they'll get confident and they'll believe in themselves a little bit more. We've got a couple of tweets talking about Liverpool, really. So we'll do this as the lead into another weekend where West Ham, I think, put in a really good performance against the team that they, by all rights, weren't expected to win. But we've had Jeb say Liverpool's midfield's gelling a lot quicker than expected, which I'd agree with. I still think they have got a bit of a gaping hole in front of the defence. But in terms of like the interplay and how everyone's matching up, I think it's really good. Like they've got some really exciting players. They're very much front foot or nothing at that midfield. So I think there's going to be a lot of high scoring games, and they will get found out now and again. But it's fun to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've had Scott Chapman also say, I don't think it's wise to say you're going to finish above a certain team on a podcast when you're still an active player about to play at that particular team, just in case you have a stinker and look a bit silly. Obviously,
you know what he's on about there?
I'll be honest. No, I assume that there was a Liverpool player saying he was going to...
No, I'll fill you in. So if you don't know, Mikel Antonio has a weekly podcast with Callum Wilson.
Oh, right, okay.
On this podcast, they have been pretty much bullying Richarlison for the past 12 months.
Got another striker's union still strong.
Yeah. It's honestly not a good podcast. I've got to say as well on that, Callum Wilson just comes across like a wanker. I don't know what it is, but really? I listened to him be interviewed or whatever, and he's just like, is that a completely correct term? He's like a fuck boy. That comes to mind.
Right.
Just a bit of a knob. If I'm libelous for that, I'll take the lawsuit.
Yeah. Just a bit like an arrogant knobhead.
Basically, yeah, that's probably a better way. Again, long day. Really don't like Callum Wilson. Yeah. On said podcast, and because of the the nature of the internet and stuff, Mikel Antonio basically said like, "Oh, do you know what? I fancy us." It's one of them. He starts off by making a point and you go, "Oh, this is fine," and he completely derails himself. He starts off by going like, "Oh, I fancy us against Liverpool this weekend. I think we can beat them." She's like, "Yeah, fine, fair enough." Then goes on to say like, "No, I think we're going to finish above them this season," and I'm like, you know what's going to happen? Like that is going to get clipped up and quoted up to no end. And it was all the build up to the game across the week that I saw on Twitter was just Liverpool accounts or West Ham accounts sharing that quote. And I was just like, well, it's so obvious what's going to happen here. And like, if he comes out and says that and puts in a brilliant performance and he's like, he's taking on defenders, beating them for fun, bullying Van Dijk and Matt or whatever. And like was generally, did everything he could to help win the game. It didn't happen. I'd be fine with it. It was shit.
Yeah.
Like
it was basically an open goal.
He was, mate, like we should have been 2-0 up in the first half. The Souček one, I've got no issue with. It's an unbelievable save from Alisson, the one where he denies Souček.
Yeah, yeah.
The Antonio one's horrendous. It was bloody awful. Like, and there was that, and like I said, it's just overall performance was just crap. It doesn't help, obviously, that like it gets thrown to the floor every now and then, and the referee just goes, "Nah, it's not a foul because you're Miguel Antonio and you're massive."
Yeah.
But like,
get up.
If by like 2 or 3 times you're throwing yourself to the floor and you're still not getting a decision, stop throwing yourself to the floor and actually try and go shoulder to shoulder with Van Dijk or Matip and try and actually influence the game in a positive way. He has a habit of doing this, Antonio, where he just puts his foot in his mouth and ends up inevitably making a complete tit out of himself. And it's just like, I think he's had a good start. If I'm probably being harsh, he's had a pretty decent start to the season, a lot better than I thought he was going to have. Because I was pretty convinced he was finished at Premier League level. When he's obviously shown that he isn't. I just think that the moments you get out of him where he does look brilliant are very few and far between compared to what they were in previous seasons. So it's like 1 in every 4 or 5 games, you'll get a beast mode Antonio, and in the others, it'll just sort of stroll around, look a bit disinterested, take a shot and miss the ball completely or something.
Yeah.
So
just not consistent enough.
No. I just wish he would stop putting his foot in his mouth on his stupid bloody podcast. But
it's just another one of those, like, saying stuff to generate clicks things, I guess. Like,
basically,
he knows he's going to get clipped up, and he knows that he's probably not going to be playing in the Premier League next year.
I can't believe you say that. He signed a new contract. The club have given him like an extra 1-year extension, and he's on like $100,000 a week. Why?
Yeah.
Like, again, he's been great, and I've said this a few episodes ago. Like, he should be remembered in years to come as a West Ham United legend. But why would we give him a new contract? Like, he's 34 years old.
Yeah.
And we've seen this happen with Leicester and Jamie Vardy, where it's like, no, we still got Vardy. He's still great. We won't bother. Like, we'll take a punt on the odd striker here and there, but Vardy will still play most of the time. Vardy was crap last season. Leicester got relegated. I'm not saying that's going to happen to us, but like, at some point, we've got to be a little bit more forward thinking and start thinking, right, what's going to happen when he can't run anymore? Because that's kind of all he's got now. That's all he's really ever had is just running. So,
and he only figured that out when he turned 30.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I don't know, but in terms, that's my little Mikel Antonio rant aside. But like in terms of the overall game, it's like you said, man. I thought I don't know what I think we probably could have. I think there was more we could have done in this game compared to the City game last week. Like, I think you're right. I think where McAllister was playing that 6, I think he was there to be got at a little bit. And I don't think we got at him enough. I think partly because I understand the selection, like of playing Souček, Ward-Prowse and Alvarez as your 3 and putting Paqueta out on the left, even though he wasn't playing as like an out-and-out winger. He was, coming inside a lot more. But I feel like if you have Paqueta in the middle, you've got someone there who can really go at McAllister and sort of give him something to think about rather than just having him looking up at Souček going, "Oh, you're big."
I'm going to run past you now.
yeah, exactly. But like, it's one of them, man. Like we could have been 2-0 up going into halftime if both those chances go in. It's a really good goal from Jared Bowen. Like really well taken header. He misses a sitter in the second half as well.
Jared Bowen real quick. Like he looks like, I know it's again early days, but he looks a bit back to how he was a couple of years ago. He had a bit of an off season last year, didn't he? Where he did. Nothing was really working for him, but he looks like he's just kind of got his mojo back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's 4 away games in a row now he's scored. Like he's been outstanding, and it's the exciting thing for me is in these sort of games where we played, like we had quite a tough start to the season actually. Like when you think obviously Bournemouth away first game is kind of whatever, but then you've had Chelsea at home, Brighton away, the first team to play away at Luton, and then City and Liverpool. Like it's not an easy.
About as tough as you get in that.
Yeah, pretty much. And like it's gonna. And when we play against these sort of tougher opponents, like Bowen's asked to do a lot defensively, and it probably does more defensive work than he does going forward. But when we got Sheffield United next weekend, and the opportunity to see him maybe have the shackles taken off him a little bit and become a little bit more of a goal scoring threat, even more than he already has been, is really really exciting. So. He's looking absolutely superb, as are a number of players. There's some concerns with our defence. I think Agued's looking shaky to start the season. There's at least one moment every game where like you look at him and you go, you've got to be doing better than that. Like he's a little bit unlucky giving away the penalty because the ball just kind of hits Núñez and falls to Salah. But like it's that sort of panicky like, oh, I'll just kick him. Yeah, and he has these moments, Agued, where it's a bit like you are so much better than this, but. It just is what it is. And
The
yeah,
one against
Liverpool
City
really
last
good.
week was the Football Manager header.
Yeah, the Football Manager
His chunk
header,
just went
like,
over behind his head.
yeah. So he's got that. But the good thing from our perspective is we've signed Mavropanos this summer, and he played on Thursday and looks, albeit against very weak opposition, but he looks really, really good. So there's some competition for that centre back spot at least. But to sum it up, I think West Ham were as good as we could have been against Liverpool. Maybe could have been a bit better. Maybe I'm being too generous, but Liverpool were just incredibly clinical. And the second goal in particular is just such a well-worked goal and well-taken finish by Nunes.
Yeah.
And he's great. I'm a very, very big fan of Darwin Nunes. And I think this season I said this on stream last night. I think it was actually talking to Jabaru. Like you were saying about the midfield, I was saying about Nunes. I felt like last year Nunes needed like 4 or 5 chances before putting the ball in the back of the net. Now he needs about 2, maybe 3 tops before he puts the ball in the back of the net. He's getting a bit more clinical in front of goal, which if you're a Liverpool fan must be very exciting.
I did say this about him like last year and this season as well. Like in terms of everything apart from finishing last year, I thought he was great. Like he's a nightmare defender. He's big, he's tall, he's quick, he's strong. Like he runs at people, he runs past people, he finds space. He just couldn't hit the back of the net. Now that he's getting that confidence a little bit, like kind of like the Chelsea players, right? Now he's got that little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
He's not second guessing what he's doing in front of goal. He's looking loads better. But again, like as you kind of like touched, West Ham could have been a couple of goals up, and it's been the same in a few games with Liverpool this year, where I think they've kind of got away with it for the first half or the first 40 minutes or something, and then come out in the second half and the quality is shown. Kind of like what United were doing last year or the year before, where it's like we look shell shocked at the start. And then go, all right, okay, well, we'll go on and score some goals and win some games now. Whereas at the minute we're the opposite. Like we'll play great for 20 minutes and then concede loads of goals.
Yeah,
which has been been great for me.
I did more to come later. I did feel that Liverpool were really good. I thought they second half in particular they took control. They just took full control of the game. Like, is that partly because West Ham's maybe set off a little bit? Possibly because it was 1-1 at that point, and knowing David Moyes, it'd have been. I mean, I'd have been happy with the points. I'm not going to have a go at him for that. But the way they took control that second half and they just absolutely dominated it. Like, I don't think there was other than that Bowen header, there wasn't really a sniff for us in that second half, and there was only going to be one winner. And I think that front three they've got. Jeb mentioned the midfield, and it is really, really good. That front three that's got potential to get as good as, maybe better than the Mane, Firmino, Salah trio in its plump. Like Diaz was really good. Yeah, and it seems like Nunes, Salah, and Diaz, it seems like they figured each other out now. And I think for Nunes, it's like more than anything, that's the sort of three I think Liverpool need to stick with. Give him a run of games, let him get scoring regularly, and you can give the Europa League games to like your Gakpos, your Jotas, and you'll still probably come out with wins. But I will say, and I feel like I say this every week, as good as Liverpool's midfield were, I still think Lucas Paqueta was the best midfielder on the pitch on Sunday. I thought honestly, he is an absolute joy to watch at the moment. I've got nothing enough to say about it. Every game I watch him, I'm just like, he's consistently the best player on the pitch usually. He's so good. He's so good. Part of me kind of hopes he gets found guilty, so he has to stay here forever. But
I was going to say it's going to be devastating when you lose him for 6 months and he gets sold in the summer.
I was like, it's either it's like we either sell him, or he gets banned for 6 months, but he comes back. I'll take the 6-month ban because at least he'll come back. So
he'll be back.
Yeah, he's an absolute joy, Lucas Paqueta. He's absolutely phenomenal. But like I say, we got Sheffield United the weekend. So if we don't beat them after what happens then this weekend, then serious questions are going to be asked about David Moyes.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was a few gaps in that Sheffield United performance. So
just a few,
yeah, just a few. So maybe you'll get a few chances. Maybe a hat trick for Bowen. Get even your FPL teams now.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Well, I worried about it because I was like, oh, they play a back five, and I was like, we're usually a bit because that's my one. I sort of touched on earlier. That's my one lingering question about Moyes this season. It's like we've shown that when he sets us up in that way, we are really good against playing against teams that are just better than us in terms of that low block, counter attacking, difficult to beat type of football. We've had a couple of games where we're expected to have more of the ball with the favourite for the game, and we're expected sort of, take the game by the scruff of the neck and sort of be on the front foot and stuff. We had it midweek in Europe. We went a goal down, but that was because Ogbonna just froze for no reason. Like, he just gave them a goal, basically. But even in that game, like, I know it was like kind of like a heavily rotated side. So you could maybe argue that, like, sort of lack of chemistry or whatever. But, like, we did look like I saw it a lot last year. It's like teams sort of sat back against us, and our only sort of play is just like, just get it down the wings and cross it in, which like after a while becomes incredibly easy to defend against. So I think this weekend is a good opportunity for Moyes to sort of show what he's got in his locker in terms of how he sets the team up to break down Sheffield United, who are probably going to be they've got it right. Try and be a bit more defensively solid than they were against Newcastle because they can't concede 8 again. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Yeah, well, can't rule it out though. I hope it does happen, but can't rule it out. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think next week is actually a very interesting test for Moyes, and I'm very curious to see how he lines up to get past it.
It's always the litmus test, that isn't it? Like of a team who plays like West Ham do against bigger teams and gets success. What do you do against those teams that sit deep and soak up pressure? You saw it against Luton, right? Like, you know, it was a way tighter game than anyone thought it was going to be because of that, like that struggle to break down. But I wonder whether having a player like Kudus who will run at people, having, you know, obviously Paqueta on form, getting your fullbacks forward, like Emerson on at left back I've been really impressed with when I've seen him.
He's been great.
He looks great. He doesn't look like the player that I thought he looked like at Chelsea. He looks like a really good dynamic left back. Like gets forward really well, defends well. Like he's
when he came in, it felt like we just replaced Masuaku with a slightly better version of Masuaku in the sense like he's a left back who doesn't really do defending. Like he's a wing back essentially. But under the year he's had with Moyes, he's really improved like the defensive side of his game, and he's because Paqueta plays on that left, and obviously they play together at Lyon. Like those two have a really good understanding with each other, and they're really key in terms of our build-up play. And you mentioned Kudus. Like I think I've got a lot of high hopes for Kudus. I really do. I don't think we'll see the best of him this season, though. Like even though he got his 2 goals in midweek, there's a bit of me that thinks we kind of had it with Paqueta when he first joined, where it's like I may have said this last week, but like he's come from Ajax, where he's used to having a lot of the ball and having a lot more time on the ball than he will in the Premier League and playing for West Ham especially. So I think there's going to be an adaptation period there for him. But I hope he starts against Sheffield United. I really do, because I want to see him in the team more, and I want to see him. He's not going to get used to the league unless you play him, right? So I think Sheffield United is a good team to throw him in against, be it on the left or you keep Paqueta out there and you stick him through the middle. Like you say, just picking the ball up from midfield and running at people, and that'll be really, really exciting. But I think it'll be a case of maybe second half of the season, once he gets a few more games in him, we'll see more of what he can do. Or I'm wrong and he hits the ground running straight away, which I'm obviously hopeful will happen. But I think I'm willing to sort of temper expectations for now, because I don't want to put too much pressure on him. Like he's a big marquee sign in the window, but I don't want people to start basically saying he's shit after 3 games. Like they did with Paqueta last season. So
it's just the reactionary nature of the internet, isn't it? Though, like
exactly
the amount of players that you see that struggle, even like players that just struggle moving from one Premier League club to another, like let alone coming in from another league. Like give him time, see what happens.
I'm always like, it's not just the internet. I was at the game on Thursday, and this was in like 20 minutes into the first half, after he'd already like taken on and beaten some defenders or whatever. I think he like gave the ball away or whatever. And I had this bloke behind me go, tell you what, I've seen enough of him. I was trying to go, you finish that sentence, mate. I swear to God, we're going to fall out. What are you talking about?
I've watched this guy for 18 minutes, and that's enough for me to make up my opinion.
Honestly, so yeah, it's not just the internet; it's the general public, and in general. So
never underestimate the stupidity of people.
Basically, yeah. Right, should we talk about Man United?
Yeah.
Well, you won this week.
We won a dogged defensive display against away at Turf Moor against a team of players I've never heard of. So we got 3 points. To be fair, like Burnley played well. They played as well as I expected, and like there's a lot made about the amount of like the difference in possession and stuff. If you watch the game, how much of that was just passing between the back line? Like, there's a lot of that, and I think United understood that was going to be the case, and we tried to hit him on the counter a few times. Didn't create a ton of chances. It took Johnny Evans rolling back the years, like turning into Franz Beckenbauer, and Bruno turning into Robin van Persie for us to get 3 points. But we'll take it. It's I think at this point, with the negative press and everything that's being said and everything that's going on at the club, we just needed a win. Like we just needed to get a win over the line and go, right, exhale, like just, and then we go again. Let's start again, because the game in the midweek again. Like I'll kind of touch briefly on the Bayern game. Like again, like shock horror. Last week it was Brighton are good at football. Shock horror. Like shock horror. You go away to Bayern Munich, one of the favourites to win the tournament, and lose by 1 goal. And I know you can look at it and go 4-3 doesn't tell the story of the game, because United weren't at the races. It did feel like very much like first gear for Bayern the entire game. But on another day, you know, when Onana doesn't do his best tribute to David De Gea, we draw that game, right? Like, again, it was another game where we actually started, like, first 20 minutes, came out of the blocks. I'm like, great. Like, we switched on, look, turned up, like, it's all going well. And then he flaps one in the bottom, flaps one underneath him, and everyone's head just goes, oh, for God's sake.
I thought we fixed this.
Yeah, we're doing this again. Oh, my God. But, like, it was definitely a game for the neutrals. But I couldn't believe the scoreline. That was a 4-0 game, not a 4-3 game, really.
Yeah.
Maybe a 4-1, but
it's like Bayern handing the control of their younger brother for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, just like hand on the top of the head, going, "Oh, you're swinging! He's swinging!" He's like, "Oh," and then you get like a couple of digs on you. Oh, go on! There you go. It was as bad a performance as you know a 4-0 loss would have been.
Yeah. Was it the? Sorry to jump in quickly. Was it the fourth goal? Because I think we spoke about this earlier. You said about like the players don't look like whether they're fit or they're unfit or they're tired or whatever. Was it a fourth goal where it's like McTominay is basically just walking next to is it Kimmich, I think?
Yeah.
As the build-up's happening, you see McTominay sort of like just sort of casually walking next to him, just watching it all unfold, going.
And you've got Joshua Kimmich with like 20 yards of space around him just to pick out the perfect ball over the top onto one of the highest rated young strikers in the world. It's like, okay, I guess we're doing this then. Like Lindelof just completely lost it. He didn't have anyone else around him. He had one person to mark. He turned around and he was gone. He's like, I've caught up again.
It's very bizarre.
So yeah, it was a poor performance. I think it was a better performance against Burnley, but again, like we've already talked about Burnley. Like Raz, one of the regulars in my channel, and I'm sure like known around the FM circles, like said last year, watching Burnley in the Champions League was weird. In the Champions League, in the Championship was weird.
What was he watching?
Because it was a load of like like no face players in FIFA. Like no one's ever heard of anyone. Like it's bizarre that 3 teams even found a way to get up. Like they've come up this year with a load of granted like talented young players and exciting young players, and some of their like forward players are really fun to watch. I just wonder whether they're actually going to score the goals they need.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, but like again, early season, like if all you need at the bottom of the table is 2 or 3 results to go your way, and things look very different.
Yeah.
But like I say, a win, we'll get away with it, and a big one was a clean sheet. I think like.
I think Onana needed that definitely after the Bayern game, right?
Yeah, and like some of the stuff that's been thrown his way, like don't get me wrong, he had a bad game against Bayern. Like there's no way that should have been going in, but the immediate De Gea revisionism was out of this world. Like it was like he flapped that underneath him, and then I immediately saw loads of tweets from people like United fans and like meme pages and stuff going, "Oh God, we should have just kept hold of De Gea." Like blah blah blah. It's like. Do you remember, like he was flapping 5 of those in like every couple of months? Like, there's the goal against West Ham. There's the FA Cup final. Like there was I can't remember which game it was. Oh, the was it Villarreal, Sevilla?
Yeah,
where like near post,
Sevilla.
Shot at his feet as he stood there. He trips himself up and the ball goes in the back of the net. It's like this isn't De Gea circa 2017, 2018 where he's putting in like world class performances. This is someone who's been underperforming for the last 3 years. Yeah, he can still pull off like this amazing reaction save now and again. But he has been more of a problem than he has been a solution. He doesn't, he's not up there in terms of save percentage. He got the Golden Glove in spite of David De Gea being in net last year. Like it was more of a defensive like solidity that's gone, apparently. We've got the same players, but that's just gone. Like we just can't be bothered defending anymore. And not only that, like the big thing for me was like he put so much pressure on the team because of his inability to do other things that are just a core part of goalkeeping now. You might hate it. You might hate the fact that playing out from the back and goalkeepers being competent on the ball and dominating their area is as big a thing as it is now. And it's not just about having good reflexes. But it is that, right? That is a massive part of how teams play now, and you need to be able to do that to if you want to be a possession, like high pressing team, like keep hold of the ball, you need someone who can do that. And Andre Onana is arguably one of the best in the world at doing that. Yeah, he's had a howler, but how many of the shots that he has faced, like legitimately, should he have been saving? Like he could have maybe done better with one of the goals against Arsenal, like maybe done better with one of the goals against Brighton, and obviously should have done better with the one against Bayern. But like other than that, like, it's not him that's not tracking a runner from midfield, and they're completely unmarked on the penalty spot every game. We're conceding that goal every game, at least one. Where just one of our midfielders either hasn't tracked their man, or one of them can't be arsed, or Scott McTominay's having a fag up at the other end. Like, he looks like he can't be bothered. And if Scott McTominay isn't bringing effort, he's not bringing a lot. Like that was always his thing. Is like it was always fifth gear the entire way, always full blooded, everything. If he's just strolling around, then he ain't bringing anything to the table.
No,
there's no point in having him on the pitch. But we could like just simple defensive things, errors we're making all the time. Where there's a free runner, there just knock it in the back of the net. Free runner, there knock it in the back of the net every time, and that's not his fault.
No, I did see a lot of from like United fans and like you say and other people where it's like, we had this. David De Gea won this many like Player of the Year awards, and we got rid of him for this. And it's like, again, it's like you said, it's like, yeah, you can say that, and when you frame it in that way, yeah, it sounds like a horrendous decision. Like, oh, you've got rid of a guy who was like Player of the Year 5 years running or whatever it was, and Golden Glove winner. But it's like you need to include like you say, you need to include the context of like how like and the evidence of how bad he actually was, and I don't know how much of this is due to waste amounts or whatever. We're in September, we're nearly in October. The guy's still not got a club. Like, I think that probably tells you more than you need to, everything you need to know about.
And also in a market where there's a lot of big name goalkeepers who are injured, who there's teams who need goalkeepers, and no one's sniffing around De Gea. And I wonder how much of that is they don't want the media around it or whatever, or the wages or whatever it is. But yeah, it's like 6 or 7 years ago, 5 years ago, he was great. Like I am very much a proponent of David De Gea goes down as like, a Man United great. Like he's one of the last players to win a Premier League trophy. He's put in numerous, like you say, numerous Player of the Year award, won numerous Player of the Year awards. There's been years where he's genuinely been, in the discussion for the best keeper in the world. He ain't that anymore though. The guy, not only does he not make the saves on a consistent basis anymore, he makes massive errors, and he also can't play up from the back. He doesn't dominate his area. Like he's not a leader. He's not a vocal goalkeeper. He doesn't take charge of his defense. And it's, and what are you going to do? Like I saw a load of people afterwards going, oh, well, we should have spent an extra 40 million on a centre back or another striker, and and signed De Gea up for another, for giving De Gea a new contract. And what pay him 20 million a year? Like,
yeah, so insane.
That's the thing. Like the guy was on earning near enough like £20 million a year. So like, okay, we spent 40 million or 45 million on Onana, but it's what it would have been to pay De Gea for another year or two. And granted, he's not playing for free, but I think we've had a significant upgrade on him. And just to kind of look at it with no context and go, De Gea's been great at Man United, so he will continue to be great. It's like, no, he's crap. And I think in the brief, even though there has been some errors, and obviously some goals conceded by Onana, watching the games, I can see an immediate improvement, not only in terms of like commanding the area and taking charge of crosses and taking charge of his defense, but his shot stopping is really good. Like as well as being able to do like the passing out from the back and controlling the ball and finding the right pass. I saw a few people saying, "Oh, we've spent all this money just for a goalkeeper to oof it down the pitch to Højlund." It's like, yeah, there's no one to pass to. You've got to have the players to be able to pass to play out from the back. And you see it with Edison all the time. If the pass ain't on, it's going into a channel for your guy to run onto. And when
Alisson did it against us. Alisson pinged like a 70-yard pinpoint accurate pass to Salah or Diaz, I think it was on Sunday.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
There's a big difference between playing that kind of pass, even if it's just a percentage pass into a channel and getting it in the right channel, or De Gea where he'll knock a ball boy out. There's an exclusion zone around the pitch because that's where the ball's going to fly if De Gea tries to pass it more than 5 yards. Like, and just the confidence and the calmness on the ball as well, which allows like I can see the start of what it looks like he's trying to do. He's trying to do that Brighton thing of get your studs on the ball, let them push forward, and then have like a couple of snappy passes through the midfield, and hopefully like you can find the space and transition that way, you know, rather than doing the direct transitions. The issue is we're having to start Johnny Evans at centre back. Like we're missing all of our basically starting back four. Martinez is out. We've got Varane's out, although he came back on, came in the other day. We're missing all three of our left backs now, so that's good.
He's regularly injured now as well.
He came off with a hamstring, I think.
That's oh god.
So well, he was holding his hamstring and came off. There's rumors that it's an illness, but like he was holding his hamstring before he came off. I'm very certain of that. We're missing Wan-Bissaka, who's looked like a change player in the last 12 months, 6 months at least. So we're missing all of our back four, and then you roll into that Casemiro started slowly. We're missing loads of midfielders. Like, I don't want to just sit here making excuses because it feels like that's all I'm doing at the minute. But at the same time, I think
there are mitigating circumstances.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like I might be like looking too much on the positives, or like the well, this is the reasons why. I'm looking for explanations as to why these things are happening, rather than kind of accept. Maybe I'm being a little bit too, I don't know, hopeful. But I feel like there's a lot of United fans who just would rather wallow in misery than look for any kind of positive or any kind of reason to why these things are happening.
We spoke about this last week though, because I made that exact same point about West Ham fans last week. I think it's just a football fan thing. I think it's like you said, where no matter who you support, if you're again harping back to Twitter, but like if you're a fairly whatever size Twitter page or whatever, you'll get more interactions by tweeting something negative. Like I see it all the time with West Ham fan accounts or whoever. Like it will be, let's say we narrowly lost to City last weekend. One of the first tweets I saw was like, right, how shit is Nair for Gwed? And it's like come on, like let's ignore all the good he did throughout the game and just focus on that one mistake. Like sure, one like. I don't know. Like, so I think it's very much a football fan. And again, I hear it at the stadium as well. I think fans just, maybe it is that thing of like, unless you're a Man City fan where everything is just great, it's just better to be negative or expect nothing all the time. And you might get surprised at the end of it when you see him actually does well. But yeah, it's just not for me. I couldn't be that negative all the time just for the sake of being negative,
Football's my escape, and for being having a bit of hope and being entertained and stuff. Like, if I'm gonna let something ruin my life day to day, it's gonna be me and the bad decisions I make. not 11 overplayed players in a red shirt on the pitch. Like, I'll look for the positives. But like I said, it looks like we've got players coming back now. Amrabat's coming in who can hopefully either lessen the burden on Casemiro or kind of work with him there. We've got players, like loads of players coming up, like Mount's coming back from injury. Bruno looks like he's got a bit of his swagger. There's parts of games where Rashford looks really good and parts where he just looks a little bit effective, but I think that's just Rashford. He's just one of those players who's kind of like, he's a bit on or off, and you just hope that when he's on, those things come off, and it's just not quite coming off for him at the minute. Højlund looks really promising. Like, I've been really impressed with him. Granted, he's not scored a ton of goals, but like he's a nuisance. He's a proper nuisance as a player, and he's also got some quality to him. Like I like his hold up play and his awareness of what's going on around him. I'm not here saying he's going to score 30 goals and be a Ballon d'Or nominee, but man, it's nice after so long to see a competent mobile striker at Man United, because I genuinely can't remember the last time that was it. Maybe like the first season of Lukaku.
I was going to say probably Lukaku, right?
Cavani looked good in spits and spurts when he was, in the first season at United. But again, that took him 6 months to get any game time. And when he did get game time, he was 35. Like, what can you do? So it's nice to just have that again. And I think once we get our defense back in and we get like a bit of balance in midfield, things will start to look better. I think there's a lot of doom mongers around United, and people just, I mean, there's a lot of non-United fans who just want United to fail as well, which I totally get. I get it. It's just something that comes with Man United, and like the pressure and the expectation of it of us, even no matter how long it's been since we've actually had a successful season. Like, there's always this like, United are still the team you put on your paper if you want to sell copies, aren't they? Like, the United stories go.
was thinking about it the other day. Actually, it's that thing of like it happens. I've only really thought of it the other day, but it seems to happen all the time. It's like it's this constant cycle with United where it's like, or since Ferguson left anyway, or since Moyes left, let's say, where it's like manager comes in, does all right first season, shows signs of promise, and then immediately into the following season, it's like, well, I've got to win the title. Like, I've got to win the league now. And then it doesn't happen, and then it's a disaster, and then it collapses. And then Mourinho comes in, has a pretty good first season, got to win the league next season, and it's
calls him Shaw fat, fucks off.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing happened with Solskjaer. Obviously, they signed Ronaldo, so expectations were obviously going to be a lot more high end. And it's kind of a similar thing happened with Ten Hag. Like again, like I've always said, I think there is things that he is, that he has to take blame for. I know you know that as well, obviously. And I think the real test of, or the real sort of gauge of where Ten Hag is really as United manager is when he gets all these players back and he has like a fully fit starting 11 to choose from for the first time in a while. If he has all those players available and results still aren't looking good, then yeah, possibly more questions do have to be pointed at the manager. Like I think he has got justifiable reasons why it's not been going so well this season. But it's like I remember like even last year, it's like Ten Hag came in and it was meant to be like the start of his new project, and then like we were in, I don't know, they were like at one point they were 8 points off top or whatever, and it was like, so Man United are in the title race now. It's like just chill, just let them do their thing. Like why? And then the next week they went and lost, and they fell 12 points. Well, that's the title challenge over for this year. Well, they're going to start the project, and it's like it's the Gary Nevilles and the Roy Keanes and the Sky Sports and everyone's in the world. It's just like the former player Man United contingent of just let them. It's like you said the other week. It's not that era anymore. Just let them do their thing. Just let them evolve, like Liverpool did under Klopp. Like let it just sort of naturally happen, rather than trying to force it. So
it just needs a little bit of breathing space. Like I said before, like after 3 games, people like questioning whether Ten Hag's good enough. Like I said, an incredible unbeaten record at Old Trafford. Obviously, that's gone recently. But who was the manager who built that incredible unbeaten run? The guy who's in charge. Two cup finals, won a trophy. Like did pretty well in Europe. Got us back in the Champions League. Like on a season where I think the hope would have just been like a top 6 challenge for the top 4, pretty comfortably in third at the end of it. It's like that's as good a season as we probably could have expected, especially with all the drama that's gone on around it, and the drama that's carried on since. Like there's just this constant nonsense going on at United, which isn't going to help. It's not going to help anything. I don't know if you've seen today as well. Like Jadon Sancho's basically been told to pack his bags. Like unless he can sort things out with Erik Ten Hag, he's been told he's not welcome at the training ground anymore. Like the dude, I don't know how real the photos are, but there's like a Twitch streamer was up playing him on FIFA at 3 a.m. like the day before the Champions League game. Just like, oh no, like this, you're not helping yourself here, Jadon.
And this, viewers, is why Erik Ten Hag cries at work.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just like that's rumbling on now. There's obviously like the Anthony thing going on and everything else that goes on. And as far as I understand it, like Jadon Sancho's a popular guy around the dressing room. Like
it's gonna have an effect.
He's big mates with Marcus Rashford. Like he's a young English player, so like he's been in those squads and stuff. They'll all be getting on. So it must be really tough getting pulled between that. But like at the end of the day, it's like it feels like a very legitimate criticism of his effort was put out there as a way to try and give him a kick up the arse. His response has been to whinge about it online, still not turn up for training properly, and play video games till 3 a.m. And it's like, okay, well, at some point, you've kind of got to go, like, as much as anybody wants to blame the manager in this situation or hope that the club are going to side with the player, it's just not gonna. Like, there's already precedent for this. Like, the Man United have backed Ten Hag on so many big decisions. And you've got this guy who is, let's not forget, the top earner at the club.
Yeah,
came in for big money. He's not even making the bench. He's not training. He's training with the kids. It's like, where's his value? Like at this point, it is just a case of, all right, well, what can we get for him? Let's just get any return on him at this point. Like there's talk of like a January loan to Barca. If they can get him to pick his wages up for 6 months, of course he's going to Barca because they'll just find money from anywhere, right?
Because one thing Barcelona have needed over the last few years, it's more signings.
It's more wacky wingers.
Remember though, it's not Barcelona's fault. Their financial mess is not Barcelona's fault. Just always remember that. Right. Yeah, yeah. But still, if anyone who's not aware, I am being sarcastic. It is entirely Barcelona's fault.
Oh yeah. They're selling their soul to buy more players. Selling all future earnings so we can afford a 35-year-old Lewandowski. Let's go.
Got the league title. Who are we to judge, I suppose? But
yeah.
I hate Barcelona.
Well, I think that's enough of like my therapy session for this week.
Yeah, I hope it helps. I hope it helps.
We'll see how it goes at the weekend. I mean, we've got Palace tomorrow. We've got Palace back to back.
Okay.
Palace in the cup tomorrow. Palace at the weekend. So we'll see how it goes. I feel like that those could be games where I think might be a bit of rotation tomorrow, and then at the weekend those could be a couple of games where if we can actually play a half decent game and get a result, it might feel like, okay, the tide's turning, right? We're getting a little bit of momentum now, like because Palace are a decent side, right? Like, you know, got some dangerous players. On the flip side of that, though, Palace could beat us. Things could go very, very badly.
I do feel like at some point in the season, though, it's going to flip where like I'm the one who's going to be coming on for therapy session, and you're going to be going, everything's great.
Yeah,
like, I just feel like
it's a hat trick today.
It's got to like turn. The tide's got to turn at some point, but I hope it doesn't, obviously, for West Ham's sake. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Hopefully, it's not a case of only one of us is allowed to be happy. Because that won't be good. Although it probably makes better watching.
It probably does, to be fair. Yeah, I don't think any of us expect to go into both this season like both of us being like, God, I'm looking forward to Champions League next year. Do you know what I mean? Or the Championship.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping not. Hopefully, the only big team going to the Championship is Chelsea. What we'll do, I think it's a good idea to cover a little bit of what was a really fun game, and I know it was on at the same time as the West Ham game, so you probably haven't watched the entire game, but maybe you've seen some of the highlights. And speaking of a couple of sets of fans who have got every right to be, pretty happy with how everything's going at the minute, the North London derby happened. It was a 2-2. A game of missed chances, some good football, some dubious defending, but for the neutral, as neutral as I can be as a United fan and an Arsenal playing, a really fun game. Like, and as fun as it is to meme on Spurs, like I quite like them.
Right now, can we?
You know what? All right, it's been really funny. Like it's been really fun taking the piss out of Spurs the last few years because they've just been a disaster. They've now got some really fun players, some good young players. And a manager who I just can't help but like. Like, I just, whenever I hear him talk, it's like really down to earth. Like, his teams play really good football. I was one of those people who's like, is this actually going to transition here? Or are they just going to get slapped? There's a lot of gaps, but they play some fun football. They score some goals now. And I think of all the doom merchants that were saying Spurs are going to be nothing without Harry Kane, James Maddison is helping kind of ease that pain a little bit and playing Son up front through the middle. He's getting goals now. They're looking dangerous. They've got players who, like Yves Bissouma, looked like a forgotten man last year. He's completely reinvented.
I cannot believe he didn't get more games for Spurs last year. Like I always
forgot a couple of knocks, but I just think I don't think I don't think any of the managers that were there last year really felt him.
No,
I don't think he was Conte's kind of player.
He was so good at Brighton. And it's just like you look at him now, and I think you forget how good he was before he went to Tottenham. And it's like he's such a good midfielder. But
I think it was with Conte. I think he likes a couple of players who will just like sit and just be like a defensive linchpin. Whereas I think he's a much more dynamic player than that. He's a great. He reminds me. I mean, he's not the same kind of player. He's got that kind of Moussa Dembele kind of thing about where like he'll sit in front of the defense and he'll pick the ball up and he'll just skip past a couple of challenges and like he'll be up in the opposition half within a couple of minutes. Like, and I don't know whether that's the kind of player that Conte likes, but man, I love watching those kind of players. Like, and it's the same with our fullbacks, right? That like they'll pick it up in their own half, and they'll get pressed, and they'll just go, "We're just going to run past you." You know, we might lose the ball, we might concede a goal, but we're going to run past you. We're going to try it every time, and it's really entertaining.
It's like you said, it's really difficult. Like I cannot stand Tottenham, but. And I'm not just saying this because of like the West Ham Spurs thing. I do think it will, not like I'm crashing down, but I do think they'll have a poor run or two this year.
Oh yeah.
Like I think that there will be a period at some point during this season where they'll have a few bad results, and their form will sort of tail off. But I don't like. It shouldn't be a surprise. I don't think they'll maintain this throughout the entire season. And like There wouldn't be a disaster if they didn't. Like, it's just kind of thing. I think their season will balance out, if that makes sense. But I agree with you about Ange. He's so annoyingly likable.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for reasons to dislike him, and they're just not there. He just seems like a sound bloke. Like, you hear him talk about, like, obviously the Richarlison stuff came out like the last couple of weeks. You hear him talk about that. Really well spoken about that sort of stuff. There was a thing when he was at Celtic, and a reporter asked him about, why have you signed low Japanese players, essentially? And he was like, well, no, we haven't. We've signed 5 really good players. Like, I don't look at them as just Japanese players. It's like the way he articulated it was really well measured response, and like really sort of like thoughtful response. And then say he's just he gets his teams playing really, really good football, and I'm surprised that they've hit the ground running as quickly as they have. I thought they'd be a lot more topsy-turvy, whereas they're maintaining a real consistent level of performances right now, and it's really bloody annoying, to be honest.
If they had like a defender who could think for 90 minutes and not just Romero, who can only seem to do it for 85 minutes of a game, they'll probably have a few more points as well, to be honest.
Probably, yeah.
I do still think, like, and the thing about it as well is they're obviously a team in like a bit of a transition. Like, they've got rid of a few players, they've brought a few players in. They're still obviously trying to get rid of players who kind of little bit of similarities to Man United, where like you've got Eric Dyer sat there who just isn't a part of the team. They can't move him on. Like, they've loaned out Reguilon, arguably annoyingly to Man United, but like it feels like they're very much at the start of this, like, building a team around him, and they've not spent that Harry Kane money yet. Like, so they've got that sat in the back pocket. You just kind of hope, I guess, as a Spurs fan, I should say, like, you'd hope that you don't see the same thing happen to Ange that happened to Poch, where it was like, okay, here's something really promising. We've got something we can build on. We've got a bit of cash to throw around, and they just go, you're working on what you got. There's no more players for you because we've got to pay off this big vanity stadium that's got the longest bar in the world. Like,
all those guys spend like 50 million quid on like a highly rated midfield from Europe that Poch didn't want. Like,
who they're still trying to get rid of, I think, right? Or did they cancel his contract or something? Okay.
It's like, right, Mr. Levy, we really need like some more, like, just some more backup Harry Kane and stuff, because that's one area we lack. Okay, here's Ndombele. It's like, what? No. I don't want to pay Lucas Moura anymore.
Yeah. He doesn't want to be here. But it's I think it's an exciting time as a Spurs fan for the first time in a long time, and as much as you hate Spurs fans being happy, then they've at least earned a bit of a smile. They've had their misery for a long time.
I was going to say, if I had to put myself in their position, it must be nice going from the misery of Mourinho, where like just sort of sucks the joy out of everything, to Conte, who I thought Conte would do a lot better than he actually did, but I didn't actually see the implosion coming that early with Conte at Spurs.
Oh, it's always coming, but it happened much faster than anyone expected.
That's the thing. I thought it'd be at least third season. I thought they would kick in, but no, Spurs really broke him. But like and that's just miserable football under those two managers, to have like a really likable manager who seems to really want to buy into Spurs and what the club want to do and stuff, and he's engaged himself with the fans, and the style of football he plays is really, really fun to watch, and it must be good for Spurs. Like, it must be nice if they like lose a game this year, or they'll lose more than just the one, obviously, but they lose a few games this year, they'll probably walk away from most defeats being like, well, we still played really well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they'll still be quite happy with what they saw.
It didn't work this time.
They
found the gaps. The next team might not.
It's like, well, it's only a 4-3 defeat. It happens. Do you know? It'll be one of them or something. Like, so
that's very Man United copium, that.
Basically, yeah. No, I think it's like you said, it's interesting to see how much Levy will back him off the back of how successful this season could be. And I say, if it goes the same way as because I think Spurs fans may have actually probably learned their lesson now of like wanting a Mourinho and a Conte, to now going, okay, we don't want that anymore. We want this type of we want a Poch 2.0 basically. It'd be interesting. So I think they've learned their lesson. I worry that I don't think Levy has. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to the point and goes, no, he's doing well. He's doing really, really well. But Mourinho is available again, and he got really close last time. So or someone of that mold. It's like Rafa Benitez. Like, do you know what I mean? So.
I wonder how many Spurs fans as well, like, of the, we can't let Kane go, brigade. Like, he's the only chance we've got of doing anything. Seeing the change that him leave, like, don't get me wrong, like, I still think he'd be a wonderful player in this system and in this team, like, but he'd be getting in Maddison's way. Like, he wouldn't be running the channels like Son does. Like, he as wonderful a player as Harry Kane is, and he's proven it with his goal return in Germany, right? Like, the guy, like, it's just another example of, why Bayern are so overpowered in that league. Like, the guy literally turns up and he scores 7 goals in 5 games. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, we know he's a good goal scorer,
like,
but is, like, I wonder whether, like, I'm going to go in a complete juxtaposition here.
No,
like,
go for it.
I wonder, like, if Harry Kane has an unbelievable season where he scores, like, 30 league goals, are people going to go, was Lewandowski actually that good? Or, like, or like, is this just what happens in Germany? Like, whoever plays up front for Bayern Munich is going to score 30 goals. Like, but like yeah. So like back to Spurs, like having these players around that fit the system a lot more, that allow everything to kind of to flow a bit more, looks really good. And yeah, I hope James Maddison hasn't injured his knee, because he's had an unbelievable start to the season. Not only that, I've just brought him in my FPL team, so I'm going to be fuming if I bring him in and he does his knee.
Get Will Prowse in. No, if you are going to replace him, that'd be my tip.
I've already got him in. Don't worry.
Oh, there you go then. No, I think Maddison, he's better than I thought he was. I thought he was really good at Leicester, but I watched him play in the Spurs team. I'm like, oh no, you could be like bordering the world class level. Like, that's how good he is. Like, again, saw it loads at Leicester of how good he was, but like, he just seems to have, since walking through the door at Tottenham, it just feels like he's just gone up. He's just taken himself up a level.
Yeah, he's decided, all right, time to step up. I think the big thing last year, and like, I think he had like a bedding in period at Leicester, but last year he was the best player by a mile in that Leicester team, who were really bad. And like, and you wonder, like, all right, well, is he just going to kind of like recreate that season again somewhere else and like just be a good player? It's like, well, no, like, turns out when you surround him with better players who are making better runs and a system that allows him to flourish and get on the ball and be creative, man, he looks really good. Like not only good, like, going from that kind of, he's a very good Premier League player, to like, he's up, not at the same level, obviously, but like, he's got an impact on games like De Bruyne has, like Ødegaard has, like when Bruno does when he's on his game. Like one of those players where you get the ball at the feet in the final third and you go, who's he making a chance for?
Yeah.
Like, and I think having players like Son on the end of, getting on the end of it, and even Richarlison, like, it's fun to meme on Richarlison because he has been terrible for years, but like, he'll make those tough runs. He'll stick his head where it's tough, and that, like, doing that for Everton is what kept them up for a couple of years.
Yeah.
If he can get 15 goals for Spurs doing that, like, that's going to help them massively. Granted, you're never going to replace the 30 goals a year that Harry Kane scored, but man, he's going to help him spread it around.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say it's interesting you mentioned about the positive effects of having Son playing through the middle. And then on the flip side of that, you look at Arsenal, who I've talked about this already about Arsenal. They've not had a bad start by any stretch of the imagination. I think it probably looks worse for them. Or if I'm an Arsenal fan, it probably seems like, oh, it's over then, because they've dropped 4 points from the opening, like, however many games, right? And City just aren't stopping anytime soon. So it must be pretty demoralising from that perspective. But I spoke about it the other week. It feels to me like Arsenal are lacking that clinical edge in front of goal, where I like Jesus, and he was good at the start of last season. Never really felt like, I know he got injured obviously towards the end, like in the middle of that sort of really good start he had last year, and it kind of kills momentum a little bit. But I mean, the chance he missed in the first half, I think it was, where he nicked the ball off Maddison and just booms it over the bar, like, just no technique or anything. Like, he's leaning back, like, that's the type of chance that when you're watching a team who's supposedly challenging for the Premier League, their main striker puts that away like 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Like, Haaland and Alvarez aren't missing that. Like,
no.
Nunez right now ain't missing that. Like, well,
no,
maybe he is.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, I think he probably scores that one. But I know what you mean. Yeah, like, it's. I'm not just dogging on Jesus, because I think he's a really, really good player. I think I think against certain teams, he's the right striker that Arsenal need to play, like, because he'll get involved in the build up and he'll help sort of open up space for, like, your Martinellis and your Sakas and your Trossards and stuff to run off and whatnot. But he's just not. Is he a 30 goal a season striker? No. Like,
he falls into that like facilitator striker thing where like what he's going to do is he's going to drop deep, he's going to like drag defenders around, he's going to dribble, he's going to hold the ball up, he'll do everything really well, but he doesn't seem to have that striker's instinct of when the ball's flashed across the 6-yard box, he's attacking one of the posts. Like that's been the biggest issue at United for years, is we've not had that player. It's great to see Højlund just like literally diving at every post, like feet first, whether the ball's coming in or not, because Rashford's like smashed it to the side net. but yeah, they just don't seem to have that. And as good as Nketiah has looked at times, I think he's just shown that he is a useful Premier League striker. He's not an elite Premier League striker.
No.
You've got Kai Havertz there, who has proved for the last 2 or 3 years that he is not a Premier League striker. They really missed Martinelli, because he's like, him and Saka feel like those, almost like Mane and Salah did when Liverpool were in their pomp. Like, when they're running at the goal, like, you think, all right, there's a good chance of a goal there, because like they're the ones who are going to be getting on the end of stuff. So they're the ones who are finishing chances rather than their striker. But you do wonder whether, they just had someone who would attack the box, attack the 6-yard box, attack the post, get on the end of something, have a little bit of like striker's initiative, like they just get the extra goal or two that had put a game away. And you kind of saw it against United as well, right?
Yeah.
It took an injury time goal from a set piece that was deflected to get them the win. Granted, there was the breakaway goal, but like at that point, it doesn't really count. But
it was done.
There were chances that they should have been finishing in that game that they didn't, because the strikers just weren't up to it. And
I've said it before, there was a game, I think it was against Fulham, it might have been against United actually, where they're chasing to get themselves back in front, and they've got Jesus on the pitch, they've got Nketiah on the pitch, and they're whipping crosses in.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're playing, the deeper you go into a game, more often than not, because of who Arsenal are going to be playing throughout the season, more often than not, that team you're playing against is going to be defending for dear life. And and if anything, they're probably thinking, whip crosses in, we can deal with this. That's fine. And they just haven't got like, whereas if you play City, they're whipping crosses in. They've got Erling Haaland to aim for.
Yeah.
Even for Liverpool, they got Nunes. For United, they got Højlund. Like, I'm not just saying it's because it seems to be the in thing where like proper number 9s are back now, but they kind of are. And it's like, you probably should, like, I think Liverpool, I forgot to mention earlier, I think Liverpool could really challenge City for the league this year. Because I just think they'll score more than other teams. I think they're back to that style of Liverpool. And they've got that type of striker.
Playing the football at the start of the game rather than, at the start of the second half. They'll be really good.
Once they get that sorted out, they've got that striker. And if Nunes goes on to be that striker that we think he can be, that gives them that chance. Whereas Arsenal don't really have that. And if Arsenal were just insisting on, no, we're gonna do it our way of like really intricate sort of, neat passing football, whatever, it becomes, some teams will find that quite easy to defend against. Like, I think like a West Ham, for example, who will just be like, all right, we'll just stick everyone behind the ball. Come on then. Like, whereas you offer a more physical presence. And I think the talk, I don't know how like legit the talk is, but there's rumours they might be looking at Ivan Toney for January. Given how much they've spent in the summer, I don't know how much money they'd have to spend on Ivan Toney to get out of Brentford in January. But he's the one that comes to mind as like the perfect option for them. And it does kind of make you wonder why they spent all that money on Kai Havertz. Because he's not that guy.
No, and I just don't really know where he fits. I mean, I guess over the fullness of the season, like, they'll probably, I don't want to say get their money's worth, but he'll get a lot of game time just because of how much rotation's needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like they are missing that kind of striker, or, like, as we've talked in the past, if they don't want to bring in a big money striker to, take Gary Jesus' spot, and they want someone who can just be a bit of an option, maybe look at someone like a Dama Solanke, or someone like a, what's the lad at Forest called?
Awonyi.
Like, I
think
great. He's great. I've actually thought that he'd be great for West Ham. Like,
I'd love him. I would love him. He's like he's like a Mikel Antonio regen. It's great.
Yeah. He's 6'4", rapid, strong, just like charges through people, gets chances. Like, he looks great. Like one of those kind of players that they could probably pick up for like 20-30 million maybe, rather than going for a big. Because even though he'll be coming off a ban and no football, you're still going to be looking 70-80 million for Ivan Toney. He's in his prime. You've still got another 5-6 years of him. He's not going to be a cheap player. I think he might only have 1 year left in his deal though at the end of this season. So that might knock the price down a little bit. But even so, like, I don't think there's going to be any shortage of offers for him. Like, I could see Chelsea going in for him as well. Like, You know,
Yeah,
just,
because they need a number 9 who's competent. So
they just need another option. Like a lot of these teams just need another option. But yeah, it does feel like that, and it almost feels like, I don't want to say Arsenal regressed, because they're still like playing some great football.
I think they're just where they are last year. I think they're just kind of the same.
Kind of a couple of years ago, Arsenal had this real issue. Last year, Arsenal seemed to snap into it a little bit quicker and like do quicker passing movements through the middle of the park. And I don't see it that much this year. They seem to have gone back to, I think JJ on TV used to call it the horseshoe of doom, where like they just have like this semicircle of players, like from like halfway in the opposition half to the edge of the penalty box, and they just pass it around the big horseshoe forever. And I was watching them do it in the 90th minute against Spurs. Like,
this is what I mean, yeah.
So they were just knocking it around, and there was like 2 players in the middle, like trying to make a run through about 8 defenders. Like, you need something else. You can't just keep knocking it around. I get that, like, they might find something. I think Gary Neville said it in commentary. It was like, you're hoping that something perfect happens. Like, you need to find the perfect kind of opening and find the perfect pass and find the perfect cutback for this to work. And you're gambling on perfection with 2 minutes to play. Like, it's different when you're doing it for the first 80 minutes of a game, but at some point you've got to like snap the tempo, get someone to run at someone, get someone to try and commit someone, like, you know, have a bit of a physical presence in there. Like, stick one of your big midfielders in there or whatever. Like, even like Havertz, just get him in there. He's a big guy. Like, he's not a striker, but like, you know, he can cause a bit of disruption, right?
From what I saw, like, it felt like there was a fear of losing the game, which obviously no one would, but it's losing that game.
Yeah.
Like, it's the North London derby against Spurs when, you know, you were challenging for the league last year and where Spurs were last year. Like, I get it, but you're the home team, like, sees the energy of the home crowd and whatnot, and like go for it. And it's like, yeah, you may get caught in the counter attack, but it's that risk versus reward, right? Like, ultimately, I think if you're asking Spurs and Arsenal fans who would be happy to come away with a point from that game, Spurs fans would be over the moon with that.
100%.
Like, whereas Arsenal fans would be like,
any rival team or team where you're challenging for similar positions, if you can take points off them at home, whether it be a draw or a win, like, you come out with that on top. Because like when you're at the end of the table, you bank on winning all your home games, and anything that takes those points away is always a good thing, and it can only be a good thing for, you know, if you're challenging for a similar position. One of my takeaways from it was, I know it's been kind of like a Spurs love and a little bit of an Arsenal bagging, but like, an Arsenal did play really well, but they didn't seem to create, other than like Jesus nicking the ball and hammering it into the stands. They didn't seem to really create a ton of really good chances.
No.
Their goals came from a penalty and a deflected cross, that went in. And it's like, where are the really good chances that are being created all the time? I mean, their keeper had made a couple of really good saves, but there were like low percentage chances. Like, there were big shots from outside the box. Like,
it wasn't like the save Raya made in the first half.
Exactly.
Like, it wasn't that sort of like level of it.
That was an unbelievable save, by the way.
Yeah, really, really good.
People were saying, "Oh, why have they signed Raya?" Because he's really good. He's
very good.
He's better than Ramsdale. Let's be honest. Like, I like Ramsdale. Like, I think he's a solid keeper. We've talked about England keepers in the past, right? Like, I think he's a good keeper. I think he isn't a top. I don't think he's an elite keeper. I think he's a good Premier League keeper. He's kind of like that upper mid-table, like, you know, he's a player who would find himself at Arsenal, but Raya was one of the best the keepers in the Premier League last year. I'll be honest, I'm fuming that you know, we could have we've spent 45-50 million on Nana, who is great, by the way. I don't regret the signing of him, but knowing that David Raya, one of the better keepers in the Premier League, was available on loan for a year, it's like, maybe we could have used that 40 million somewhere else. I'm not saying we shouldn't have replaced De Gea, but maybe we could have done it that way. You know,
Chelsea as well. They went for Sanchez rather than Raya. Was like, they were linked with Raya. They could have gone for him. Yeah. On that, actually, because I was going to say, one more question was going to be: do you think Mikel Arteta like either not overthinks, but do you think Mikel Arteta tries to do just too much and be too like?
Are you going to talk about the substituting goalkeepers thing and rotating?
Do you believe him?
No,
or is he just lying?
He's trying to. What he comes across to me is he's spent 3 years under Pep, and he's going, I've got to do something different to make myself stand out. Like, I've got to get my clickbait. You know, I've got to find something that makes me different, or kind of reinvent the game a little bit, rather than just playing it really well, like getting your team playing really good football. I've got to be the first manager to start doing tactical goalkeeper substitutions. It's like,
Yeah,
nah, sit down, mate. You're trying too
yeah,
hard. It's showing.
yeah. Like there's a great. I don't know if you watched the Arsenal or Nothing documentary series where he loves. I think he loves sound of his own voice, but he loves like metaphors and analogies and stuff. And there's a bit where he's got the light bulb. He's talking about like Edison, like, not the goalkeeper. He's talking about Thomas Edison, and and some bollocks about like, oh, we're all connected. It's like, what? There's a bloke. I found it on like Twitter or like Instagram or YouTube or something, where he's doing like a Mikel Arteta impression. He's going like, "This is a potato. The potato is multifaceted. It can be a chip. It can be be a potato, lads. Be a potato." And it's just it's so Arteta. But it's like it does feel very like you see like football manager players like on their side in draft mode with those like mental formations and stuff like that. It's like just for Charge want to be wacky. That feels like Mikel Arteta, where it's like
there was a thing
maybe
of the week
just
as well.
goes to basics every now and then.
Yeah.
Like, but basics is fine. Basics can win you games.
There was the thing of the week as well. I think it was before the United game where we were talking about, oh yeah, we played 76 formations in the last game. It's like, no, you didn't.
What the fuck are you talking about?
No, you didn't. What you did is you set your team up in a 4-3-3 and your midfielder move out to the right wing at some point. That's not a different formation. This isn't a different tactic. That is a situational. That is a player moving in a situational like sense. Yeah. Like you've not created a 76 tactics, 76 formations in one game. Again, he loves the smell of his own farts, doesn't he? Like
he's very Brent. Is Arteta. He's very Brent.
He's David Brent dressed up as a Thunderbird. That's what he
is. God, yeah, he's like you say, definitely loves the smell of his own farts. Because like the original, just the original football, well, not even the original, but like the ultimate football hipster of just like. But yeah, the whole like, oh, you know, I'm going to start subbing goalkeepers. It's like, well, it's been like a couple of games since you said you were going to do that. You haven't done it yet. So they're like, I'm waiting for it.
And
like,
I can't wait for him to do it. And then someone go, Van Gaal did that.
just sorry, Mikel.
Mikel. Yeah, Van Gaal did that. You're not the trailblazer you thought you were.
Yeah.
Right, well, it was a good chat actually. Like it was a fun game to watch that, and rightly so. I think both sets of fans have got things to look forward to. Whether you be an Arsenal or a Spurs fan, weird to say Spurs fans have got things to look forward to, but it's a cursed timeline. What can we say?
Yeah, I know. There's still time. Early days.
Oh yeah, there's still time for it all to go very wrong. Just and it is Spurs. So
they are out of one cup competition already this season. Clock's ticking. Clock's ticking, Ange.
Yeah. Can't wait for him to get to an FA Cup final and get sacked before the semi.
Yeah.
I decided. Yeah, he's successful. That's really not in his club's DNA.
No, what it'll be is they'll knock out like Liverpool City and like Arsenal on the way to the FA Cup like quarter final, and then get knocked out by like Bradford, or something. That'll be what happens.
Yeah, and then Ange will be all philosophical about it. Yeah, I don't think we've got any awful pundit takes this week, have we?
We haven't. Scott did tweet us one, but it's kind of feel harsh to use it because it's at the start of the season. But it was Gary Neville on the overlap, basically saying like, "Oh, United have got Mason Mount, Casemiro, and Bruno Fernandes. I think Liverpool would rather have that midfield than theirs." And it's kind of like,
I mean,
it's funny now.
At that point, they might have done.
It's funny now because, like, on paper, Casemiro, Mount, and Fernandes is a good midfield. No one had really seen Szoboszlai play that much.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, exactly. Like no one had really seen Szoboszlai play that much, and it was like McAllister and I can't remember who plays him. Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
So at that point, it probably wasn't that outlandish. It looks a lot funnier in hindsight now.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of things that Gary Neville says are hilariously bad takes. So.
Yeah, there was one actually I clocked whilst watching Match of the Day 2. It was when they were showing the Arsenal Spurs game, and it wasn't really an awful take. It was just a shit gag that I'm getting a bit bored of now because it's just like, hey, did you know Ange's Australian? What was it they said? It was something like, oh, he's looking to take points against his neighbours, home and away. And I'm like, they said that, and I literally was sat there this morning. I just went, oh, fuck off. Could you just? We get it. He's Australian. Like,
Barbecue.
That's the thing. There's going to be some comments. There's going to be some games this year where like we're supposed to be winning, and a commentator would come out and going, "Shrimp."
Oh,
the well
God.
was really, the Aussie puns well was really truly run dry at this point.
Yeah,
Christ,
yeah. Every joke that any Australian bartender's heard in the UK, it's just going to be that on repeat every week on Match of the Day. Right. Well, we did find a couple of awful pundit takes, or at least a couple of faux pas from commentators, at least. But as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We have once again run over our allotted 1 hour time slot by quite a significant amount, so we won't keep you for too much longer. Cheers for tuning in. If you have watched us on any of the usual platforms, please do leave a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, whatever you can do to big up the channel. And also don't forget to follow us on Twitter and all other socials. Like I say, we put out tweets before we record these, giving you an opportunity to voice your opinions, your frustrations, your shit takes, and drop some bad takes from pundits in there as well. So we look forward to seeing you.
I was going to say, just jump in on that as well. Like, don't feel like you have to wait for the tweet to come out. If you see anything during the week, anything to do with football, be it Premier League or wherever, just tweet us. Tweet us your funny memes or your funny tweets that you see. The more stuff we can react to and laugh at, the better. So
whether it be at United Frontcast or myself or Breezy through our usual Twitter stuff, tag us in those and we'll bring it to the party next time. But as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.